In today's video, we're going to be covering by far the most powerful race of Exemplar in the world of Mirandus. From being able to see outside at night on the darkest of nights, to being able to cast magic spells faster, or use less Materium when casting spells, or even healing yourself from the sun's energy in the world of Mirandus. Like, these guys are by far going to be the best boss fighters, fighters in general, probably the best exploration or the most well-rounded exemplar you can have in the world of Mirandus. These guys are definitely my personal favorite race of exemplar, and it's almost unfair because their abilities are so much more powerful than any other race of exemplar. This is the last video in the video series where I go through each and every single race of exemplar in the world of Mirandus, and I give my thoughts and opinions on how they're going to influence the game. And if you haven't guessed it, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the elves. Now, I do want to preface this by saying I do own an elf, so I might be slightly biased when it comes to this. I might have the elitist elven attitude, but objectively speaking, these guys are genuinely the most powerful character in the game when it comes to battle. But before we get too far in the video, I first want to introduce myself if you haven't met me yet. So my name's Jake, and I make speculative yet very informative content on the blockchain MMO Mirandus. And I do this by taking all the information we've learned so far and breaking it down into small and digestible videos like this one for you guys to watch. So if you're looking for more consistent Mirandus content and updates, then hit that subscribe button. I'd love to see you on this page again. If not, then I appreciate you stopping by, and I hope to see you again sometime. Now, before we get too deep into the video, as you guys can tell, my background's slightly different. I have a different setup going on right now, and I don't have a mic stand, so I apologize if me holding my mic bothers you. But this is how it's going to have to be if you want decent audio. And one more thing, I want to seriously thank you guys so much for the last video. That it has almost 250 watch hours, which is way more than any of my videos have ever had before. And it seems like the general consensus was that people truly, they actually enjoyed having a podcast style video. And so I might start making more content like that. It's not going to be every video. I'm still going to have these short little videos that I've always done, but I think mixing it up and doing a podcast every couple videos could be fun. And that's kind of what got me into watching Mirandus content in the first place. The Mirandus Farmer's Almanac, if you guys haven't checked them out on YouTube, I highly recommend checking them out. They are a podcast only channel, and they cover all about Mirandus, and they were so much fun to listen to. So if you guys get even a fraction of the enjoyment I have watching those guys, then I think that I think it's a good move. But without further ado, let's talk about the most powerful race in the world of Mirandus. Okay, so the elves are supposed to be the most powerful race of exemplar in Mirandus, and I can confirm they are definitely the most expensive and the most rare race of exemplar in Mirandus. And there are a few different reasons for this price and this rarity and the supposed most powerful race in the world of Mirandus. And I'm going to break it down by each individual exemplar within the race of elves to make it a little bit more clear, because all of them have their different areas of expertise and different areas that I think that they could potentially excel in. Now, mostly the elves are supposed to be geared for battle. I think in general that's the general consensus on what the elves are going to be used for, but I definitely think that they're going to have their use cases outside of battle as well with their different abilities. In total, there are 5 different elves. We have the Allsight, the Bright Sun, the Dark Sun, the Earthlight, and the Everflow elves. So let's go ahead and start off with the Allsight elves. And I want to talk about why I think that these guys are a super strong exemplar, and why the community also believes that these guys are a very strong exemplar. Because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the Allsights won the best or the most hyped up exemplar poll on Twitter several months back. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different in today's video. So since my setup's a little bit different, I have my computer ready and available, so I'm actually going to use that for part of this video. So I'm going to navigate on over to Mirandus Hub. And if you don't know, Mirandus Hub is a website that I built all about Mirandus. So it's supposed to have all the different sorts of information about the different NFTs in the game, kind of what Mirandus is, and it's a general just Mirandus Hub, hence the name Mirandus Hub. Okay, so let's go ahead and navigate on over to the Allsight. And to preface all this information, this is all coming from a Medium article that Gala produced several months back. I went and dug up So here's what it has to say about the All-Sight Exemplar. Very little is known about the most mysterious and oldest of the elven ancestries, the All-Sight elves. Their relationship with magic cannot easily be explained to other elves, let alone humans, orcs, halflings, or dwarves. Some of the oldest stories in the land hail these elves as stewards of time, without whom the people of the world would have perished on many occasions throughout history. It is believed that they exist across all time. If this is true, it has given them a unique and advantageous understanding of not only the past, but the future as well. Greatly enhanced sight allows the All-Sight's special mastery over projectile weapons. As exemplars, All-Sight elves receive a bonus to all ranged weapons. However, possibly the most importantly, All-Sight elves also have a bonus towards chance encounters that range from opportunities for great fortune to those who grant them the best advantage in combat. Their ability name is called Futurus, and their ability description is bonus to ranged weapons. So, just kind of going off of this, first and foremost, they have a bonus to ranged weapons, and in almost any game that you play, whether it be an MMO, I guess games in general, ranged weapons are super, super nice because it keeps you out of melee range. So that automatically takes out several different enemies that could damage you as long as you keep your range. Of course, you have to worry about other enemies that have range and whatnot. But with this, it's a very skill-based combat style, because if you don't hit your shots, and this all again depends on how Mirandus is going to handle the ranged combat, but in most games, this is a very skill-based playstyle, because if you hit your shots, you're going to do damage. If you don't hit your shots, you're not going to do damage. If you hit precision shots, then you're going to do extra damage. So depending on your skill, I'm assuming the better you're going to be in the game. So if you hit more headshots, obviously you're going to do more damage. And when we're talking about the world of Mirandus, like, we're talking about real money on the line. If we go out and you and I kill a big boss that is maybe 1 of 1 or 5 of 5 or 10 of 10, we've seen how much different NFTs that are 1 of 1s or 3 of 3s go for in the world of Mirandus. It is not cheap. I'm going to go on a little side tangent here, but for example, the dragons, the Mirandus Vox dragons that sold, the first one sold for $1.5 million. The second one sold for, I think it was like $3 or $5 million or something like that. So these 1 of 1 items, or these 5 of 5 items, or these 10 of 10 items inside Mirandus are going to be worth so much money. So having an exemplar that excels in battle and is able to output a lot of damage is going to be extremely, extremely helpful. So even though the price of an All-Sight right now might be $3,000 or $4,000, if you're able to play enough and get good enough at the game and go out and do enough boss fights and maybe find yourself a super rare boss, you could absolutely make that all back in just one boss fight. So that's one of the reasons why I'm super, super excited about just the elves in general. Okay, now let's get back to the All-Sight. I'm assuming that means that they're going to do more damage with the ranged weapons that they use. I don't think that the Mirandus team will exclude every other exemplar except for All-Sight elves in certain weapons that the All-Sights can only use. It doesn't mention anything really about magic, so I don't think it's going to be a magic damage thing. I'm imagining it's just purely you do more physical damage with the ranged weapons you use. Now, I could be completely wrong about that, but that's what it seems like. Also think that it's going to specifically target ranged projectile weapons. As it mentions in here, it has a special mastery over projectile weaponry rather than maybe some sort of ranged magic, because there's definitely going to be ranged magic in the game, but I think that these guys are going to excel purely in bows. So although it seems like these guys won't have as much money to spend because they're not going to be casting magic spells with Materium like an Earthlight or an Everflow would be, I still think that they're going to be an expensive exemplar to upkeep. And I say this because the Mirandus team has already confirmed that arrows cannot be picked up. So when you shoot an arrow, it's gone. So an Earthlight and an Everflow are going to be spending money on Materium to cast spells while they're fighting, and although it doesn't seem like you're going to be in the same boat as them as an All-Sight, you still will be, because you're still going to be spending money on arrows. It's not going to be Materium, and you might, as an All-Sight, still have to have a couple spells to cast, have a little bit of Materium to cast a couple spells, but for the most part, it's going to, all your money is going to be going towards arrows. And it's kind of cool because I'm assuming there's going to be different types of arrows, maybe different laced tips or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how the economy of arrows versus the economy of, say, I don't know, just regular magic casting with Materium is going to be, which is going to be more expensive, which is going to deal more damage, magic versus physical. And I guess it's probably going to depend on the monster you're fighting. Anyway, we could talk about that. We could go down that rabbit hole, but we're not going to do that in this video. Now, the next exemplar we're going to talk about is the Bright Sun. Now, the Bright Sun, in my opinion, doesn't get enough credit where I think it should be rightfully due. So I think the Bright Sun has the potential to be the best tank in the entire game of Mirandus. Because, well, I'll just read the description and we'll talk about it afterwards. So here's what the Medium article had to say about the Bright Suns. Although they are much rarer than humans, dwarves, and orcs, elves are sprinkled throughout the land of Mirandus in precise and balanced variety. Each type of elf has a distinctive relationship with magic and a unique origin story for their people. Although the types differ in many ways and attribute different sources to their power, they still recognize that they all come from the same elven ancestors. The elves of the sun are known as the Bright Sun elves. They believe that the sun is the source of all power, the provider of everything touched by its rays. They are said to be clothed in radiant light, and as exemplars, they hold a special ability called Satiation of Soul. This ability allows the Bright Suns to convert energy into health whenever the sun is shining. Their ability name is Satiation of Soul, and their ability description, it says in daylight you can convert energy to health. Now, we can already see how useful of a trait that could be. So it doesn't say whether or not they can heal other people with it. All we know is, they can convert energy to health. So even if it's just themselves, that would be a really, really good trait as a tank to have, as long as it's daytime out. Because if it's not daytime, then they're not going to be having that ability. Now, there might be one exception, but I'm going to hold off on that for a second. So as long as you're in the daytime, you're able to heal yourself and potentially others. Now, I think it'd be super, super cool if these guys could also use the sun's energy to heal other people around them. Then that would convert them maybe from a tank to a healer. But again, that's all assuming that we're in the daytime. Now, what happens when you're at nighttime? Because most of the battles, it seems like, or most of the meaningful battles will probably happen at nighttime, because I think that's when all the monsters are going to come out. So what then? Now, I don't know if the Mirandus team's going to do this, but I definitely think it would be really, really cool if they did. The lanterns of the sun, I think it'd be so cool if they could actually get energy from the lanterns that people bought, several months back. And maybe the more lanterns you have, maybe the more more power they're able to draw from those. I don't know. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But again, I don't know if that's something the team's actually going to do. So as of right now, these guys are going to be, I think, phenomenal as long as it's daytime out. If it's nighttime, it's really, we don't know. It doesn't say anything about deriving energy from stars or from the moonlight or anything like that. I'm sure that we'll probably get a little bit of a buff or a little bit of a bonus from moonlight, because after all, moonlight is sunlight just reflected. I don't know. That's way too speculative. Now, so the next exemplar we're going to talk about is the Dark Sun Elf, and the Dark Sun Elf is one that a lot of people are really excited about. I know several people that are going to main a Dark Sun Elf. So let's go over the Dark Sun Elf's description. And here's what the Medium article had to say about the Dark Sun. The Dark Suns are a cult-like order of elves who dedicate themselves fully to darkness. They're not evil. On the contrary, Dark Suns are generally very compassionate and peaceful, even compared to other ancestries of elves. They face life with a particular peaceful satisfaction and a sense of wise acceptance. This is the main reason the Dark Suns are widely thought to be so very old. They are essentially a doomsday religion. and the time is nearly at hand for the apocalypse of darkness that they see as their ultimate rise to power. Stories say that the Dark Suns broke away from the traditions of the elves over 1,000 years ago. They inverted their clocks, turning night into day. They began walking in the dark and sleeping during the day. After about 10 years in the Dark Suns began developing the ability to see at night. Many of the very next generation of Dark Sun elves were born with this ability, and today it is innate in all Dark Sun elves. Their ability name is called Starlight Vision, and their ability description says, "You see well at night as long as you are outside." So we can already see, again, how useful this is going to be, because being able to see outside at nighttime is going to be incredibly useful, whether it be for battle, whether that be for resource hunting, whether that be for scouting. Like, there's so many different use cases for this, especially since if you played the last playtest, you saw how dark it got at night. Now, we've got a playtest coming up at the time of recording this in about a month, so I'm really curious to see how they handle the dark, because there were a lot of people that were not okay with how dark it was in the last playtest. I really liked how dark it was, because that made it so much more dangerous. You could be right up next to a goblin and you wouldn't know. And that just means that you need to have some source of light. You need to have something that allows you to guide at night. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. So these guys are going to be extremely helpful, because they're going to be able to go around and roam at night, potentially when more monsters are out or when more valuable monsters are out. So these guys are going to basically excel at night, and that's going to be their playtime. So maybe for people who have multiple exemplars, this could be their nighttime exemplar, and they could just roam around at night. And then during the day, they can run around as some other exemplar. So I don't know. I see a lot of use cases for these guys. It is a little bit confusing to me that they chose to just have them excel at or outside and not necessarily in a cave, because I know that there's a dwarf that has the ability to see inside in the dark, but like, if these guys are in a cave, it kind of stinks that they can't see in the cave. I think that would be super useful. I know that would overlap an ability, but yeah, I don't know. Regardless, I really like the Dark Sun Elves. I don't personally own one, but I think that they are a really cool and useful race. Now, the next race of exemplar we're going to cover is the Earthlight Elves. And the Earthlight Elves, I think, also deserve a little bit more attention. And I'm going to go ahead and read off their description, and then I'll explain why here in a second. So, this is what the Medium article has to say about the Earthlight Elves. Elf magic is typically focused strongly around the sun, but not all elven disciplines rely upon its power for their magical energy. The Earthlight Elves are one such discipline. They enjoy the sun as many of their brethren, but they're equally at one with their magic no matter their surroundings. For these accomplished magic users, spells are still powered by light, but the light upon which they rely is an imperceptible force provided not by the sun, but by the planet itself. As long as they have the earth underfoot, Earthlight Elves are much more comfortable using magic than most of the experienced human mages. As exemplars, Earthlight Elves come with a trait called Serenity. This reduces the casting cost of all spells. Their ability name is Serenity, and the ability description says all spells come naturally, costing less energy to cast. Okay, so again, I know I've said this for the other elves so far, but you can already see how important that could be. That doesn't mean that it's going to cost less Materium, I don't think. It says it's going to cost less energy. And we also saw in the last playtest that when shooting a bow and trying to run at the same time, it used a lot of energy. So in battle, if you're constantly casting spells left and right, you're going to run out of energy really dang fast. So having one of these guys to lower the cost per spell or per action could be extremely valuable. So in my personal opinion, I think that as long as there's magic abilities that heal you, which I'm assuming they're going to be because it's like that in just about every game, I think that these guys are going to be phenomenal healers because they're going to be able to continuously output spells after spells after spells. So if there's a lot of damage being done by monsters or bosses or something like that, these guys are going to be able to heal their brethren, their people that are fighting with them. But I also think that the Earthlight Elves would make great DPS, because that's going to allow them to cast more spells over time. So if it's a long fight and energy is an issue for you during that fight, then these guys are going to be phenomenal for that. Maybe these guys are going to be really good at moving around and casting spells, whereas the next exemplar that we talk about is going to have to be stationary. So with them using less energy to cast spells, there's so many different use cases for this. So yeah, I think that these guys could be a really, really extremely important race inside Mirandus, and I don't hear very many people talking about them. So I think that these guys also deserve a little bit more credit. Now, the last exemplar we're talking about today is my personal favorite. It is the Everflow Elves. And the Everflow Elves are my personal favorite because I truly believe that they are going to be the best DPS in the game, alongside the All-Sight. Now, it'll be interesting to see which of the two actually end up on top. But I'm hoping that it's the Everflow, because that's who I'm rocking. So let's see what the Medium article has to say about the Everflow. Elves are the rarest of the intelligent creatures that populate the world of Mirandus, and even rarer among them are the magnificent Everflow Elves. Every elf has a deep and intrinsic understanding of magical energy, but the Everflow Elves spend extremely long lifetimes studying and meditating on the conductive flow of magic. They view magic not as a doctrine of spells to be cast, but as the natural flow of energy, which, when harnessed correctly, can overcome any obstacle and perform even the most challenging task with both strength and ease. Everflow Elves are exquisitely beautiful to behold, and those who are fortunate enough to know them personally are sometimes able to share in the benefits of their magic. That's huge. As exemplars, the Everflow Elves are given a powerful bonus to casting speed. Their ability name is called Aspect of Magic, and their ability description is bonus to casting speed. Okay, so when it says that people around them could potentially benefit from that as well, that could mean a couple different things. One, it just means that, the Everflows are casting and people benefit from them doing extra damage or extra healing or whatever. But I think it'd be really, really cool if that means that people around them also got a bonus to casting speed. That would be incredible. Then it would almost be necessary to have not only an Everflow, but if, say, the Earthlight did the same thing, or if other elves had the same ability, if they could share their ability, that would be huge and make the elves that much more powerful and that much more necessary, like non-negotiable necessary, especially for some missions. So with these guys having an ability to casting speed, I obviously think that they're going to be able to output more damage more quickly. Maybe for long and sustained fights, they're not going to be as good as an Earthlight, because an Earthlight can conserve energy a little bit better. But if the Everflow can conserve energy, he's going to be able to output a lot more damage. So as long as the player, you as the player, are able to weave in spells at perfect timing and everything, I definitely think that these guys have the potential to be the best damage dealers in the game. Now, again, that could go to All-Sight. It'll be a toss-up between the two, and I truthfully, bias aside, I think it's going to depend on the monster and their different types of resistances, because some will obviously be more or less resistant to magic versus some will be more or less resistant to, say, physical damage or poison damage or something like that. So yeah, I love the Everflow. I definitely think that they could be a good healer as well, with them able to cast more spells more quickly. I think that the Everflow has so many different use cases, and I'm personally really excited to play one in the game. And these guys were the first elf to hit the store. It's not like that actually matters or anything, but I don't know, just kind of cool, a fun little fact for you. These guys were the first ones to go on sale. But that pretty much sums up everything. That sums up everything I wanted to talk about. If you guys have anything to add to what I said, mention it down in the comments because I'd love to have a discussion on it. Love talking about Mirandus. Or hit me up in Discord and let's chat about it because I love talking Mirandus as well. Speaking of Discord, if you're looking for a guild to join inside of the world of Mirandus, I highly recommend joining my guild MOM, or Masters of Materium. Masters of Materium is a super cool guild that owns a ton of assets in Mirandus with a ton of really incredible people in the guild. If I'm chatting about Mirandus, it's typically in there. So if you guys want to hop on in, I will throw a link in the description for you guys to go check out. Click on it. I actually have a really fun video planned very soon coming out that has to do with one of the leaders of MOM, and we're going to be talking about MOM itself. So I had a podcast that I had mentioned previously with Virtual, one of the leaders of MOM, about 50 different ways to make money inside of Mirandus, and that went over super well. So we're going to do another video, and it's going to be talking about just MOM in general and who they are, because a lot of people are talking about MOM. Some are scared, some are excited. So this video just does a deep dive into who MOM really is. And again, if you want to join, there's going to be a link in the description. Click on that and tag me. Let's chat a little bit. But I genuinely appreciate you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace, guys.